Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm pretty excited today to show you this record. I wasn't really ever planning on ever making this video because I never planned on ever finding this record. But as you've probably seen by the title of this video, is that I found probably one of the rarest pressings of the White Album out there, possibly in existence. And it is a U.S. copy, and out of the roughly 3 million to like 3.1 million numbered US pressings from 1968 to 1970 when they pressed uh, all the White Albums that had numbers. Right now, there's only 200-ish people that claim to have it on Discogs. When this initially was found in roughly 2007, they thought there might only be a handful of copies out there, but I'm guessing now since people kind of look for it and more information is out and about of this, that more people will eventually find more copies of this. So, what did I find? So you might first think that this is a really crappy, beat up copy of the White Album, which you're correct, but the album cover isn't the significance of this pressing. So this is a first pressing of the White Album, and it has all the mispressings or misspellings of the song titles on here. But we're not even looking at those. We got to go deeper into the dead wax here. And the matrix numbers have SWBO-1-0101-B29. So that 29, and on the flip side, it has B28. That is significant because this is the quote lost George Harrison mix. And to kind of give some background on what that is, it is mentioned in this handy book here. And I'm just going to kind of paraphrase what he stated kind of in this book, and I'll try to give you a background and some information about what the George Harrison mix means. So, while George Harrison was producing an album in LA in 1968 at the time, he wanted to hear the official track run order of all the Beatles' White Album songs, since he wasn't present for that in the UK with all the other Beatles. So the some Capitol guys, I guess, gave him an album, and George Harrison said it really sounded not good or not up to the standard to their quality that they produced it. He said he took out a lot of the charm and character of the album. So he ordered those lacquers to be destroyed, and those lacquer numbers that were supposed to be destroyed were the trail matrix number, and with a 34 or less were ordered to be destroyed. And the reason why they sounded so bad is that a limiter has been compressed during the mastering process. So instead of getting some high end and low end, they just all kind of made it one sound. And I listened to it, me and my brother, the different. I have a first pressing, U.S. pressing, and we just kind of A/B compared them. And the Lost Harrison mix is definitely kind of quieter. The vocals seemed kind of further back in the mix, and the bass seemed up, but it just kind of seemed just kind of a level sound throughout compared to the first pressing, which definitely had higher highs and lower lows. That's what they kind of wanted the White Album to, or that's what George said they wanted the White Album to be anyway. So anyway, they ordered to destroy those lacquers 34 and below, and they thought that none of them got out to the public. But in 2007, roughly, the first copy was found with the -29-28 matrix, and they thought that might have been the only copy out there. Then a few others popped up to where they might have thought there'd been like five or so. We don't really know how much or how many are out there, but like again, on Discogs, I think I was like the 201st person to put in that I have it in my collection. So you can give a few here and there. if they really have it or not. So there's kind of the background for it, and this is a price guide book from 2007. And since none have sold when this book came out, he had some estimating um, numbers for value potential, and like a good plus condition was like $400, and like a VG was 1,000, and then I guess a near mint was like $2,500. That's what he values this. I think there was also one on eBay that sold for like $10,000 at one point. Maybe that's when they only thought there was like about five in existence or something like that. I'm not saying that's how much my record is worth. And then the only one sold on Discogs was like a G plus condition to cover and the record, and sold for $1,000. There's currently two for sale on Discogs. I think for $1,000, and like someone wants $11,000 for um, theirs. So um, my record itself isn't too bad. I think once I clean it up a little bit more, yeah, I just get some of that dirt. I think it would be kind of more of a VG type condition. Now, unfortunately, the cover is just totally beat to shreds. I mean, it's got like a full seam split. It's just really dirty, and some of the covers kind of tore up there. And the number is 1.5 million 263, and then the Scranton pressing, they started their numbers in the 1.3 million. So I have like copy 200,000 in that particular pressing plant for those who care about that stuff, I guess. But good thing though is that it does come with it's complete. It has the posters and the portraits, so that's always a nice touch. But yeah. So with all that into consideration, um, with about 3 million white albums with the number on the cover in the U.S. printed, and about 200 roughly people claim to have this. That's like going through like one out of every 17,000 white albums that you probably go for. You could potentially find this George Harrison mix, which is kind of crazy. Um, the record store I got this from, it's not my usual. It's not a local record store, but I'm back on Christmas break finally, and I decided to stop by that record store before I headed off because they usually have some pretty good sized Beatles area, and he had a literal box of a crate of just white albums. He got a lot of defect records from 1980 time frame pressing of UK pressings, and he had about five US copies. So I decided to look for the Matrix number. Um, I knew of I knew about this mix, and I didn't really I wasn't really actively searching for one until about a few months ago, where Noble Records YouTube channel, he made a YouTube post about this record, and it kind of reminded me to maybe start looking for them if I ever come across some U.S. white albums that are original pressings and all that stuff. So this was like the last white album in the box, and I just remember going through it and seeing the lower number. I was like, that can't be what I must be thinking. It's like something else. Like I was thinking lower than 30, then that's the George Harrison mix. And I saw the 29, and I was kind of like starting to shake a little bit. And I looked it up on Discogs, and sure enough, the entry for the mispressing Lost George Harrison mix came up, and I started kind of disbelieving that I found one. But I actually pulled up that YouTube video and like listened to it in the corner, making sure I had everything, and sure enough, it matched everything. And I bought a couple other records from him to make it not seem so weird that I literally had a whole box of white albums to go for, and I picked up like a beat up, crappy copy, at least in his eyes. But I ended up spending around $60 for the few records I bought. So um, that's a pretty good deal, I would say. So I was just kind of in shock, more or less, at that moment. As I don't think it really has sat in quite yet of how rare potentially this album could be. But yeah, I didn't ever really expect to find one in the wild ever like that. So I just wanted to kind of share that story behind this album and how I got this. But it's always worth to take a look if you have the time at those matrix numbers. Usually they're like way like in the 40s. Speaking of beat up crappy copies of the Wired album, here's my first pressing with some interesting artwork, which is I guess kind of cool. But the record itself is just really beat up and scratched. The only reason why I got it is because it has all the misspellings of the first pressings. And I just didn't have one yet, so I got that for like a couple bucks, and I just had it as a placeholder until I had an upgrade. But I ended up getting the George Harrison compressed mix anyway. So this matrix number ends with like J47. So if that kind of gives you a hint of how many other matrix lacquer cuts there are, then there you go. So go check your U.S. White albums, I guess, if in your collection if you have any, and if you're at a local record store and they happen to have a White album, it's always worth the check to see if it has a B29 or a B28 in the matrix numbers. So that's a pretty cool collectible to have in my collection. I'll show it here one more time. Again, it didn't look like anything special, but it's I guess what's on the inside that counts, I guess. um, so I need to clean that up and protect it the best I can with some nice inner sleeves and some nice outer sleeves. Um, because again, it still hasn't really quite sunken in that I found one. So probably been rambling on a little bit too much for this video to not show too much, but I hope you enjoy and let me know if you have this particular pressing in your collection, or if you ever searched for that particular pressing and now you can search pretty much on a never-ending hunt for that. Like I said, you probably have about a 1 in 17,000 chance of or less to find one of those. And yeah, so I'll have other videos coming up soon in December since I'm on break. I do have a new Beatles Advent calendar. If you remember that a couple years ago, every 5 days I went through what I got from the Beatles Advent calendar. So that should be fun. And then I do have some more Beatles records to show in terms of Beatles updates. And then I was pretty busy in November, so I couldn't do an in-depth pressings of the next three Beatles Capital records, the Beatles buying guide, as I called it. So I want to get on that after I finish up my last assignment for school. Then I can relax a little bit, listen to all these records I got, um, and just kind of enjoy being with my records. So I hope you have a nice day, and thanks for watching.